Hey everyone, it's Denise Brown, and this is Caregiver Support Live. We meet on the first Friday of every month at noon Eastern Time, and we talk out caregiving challenges with the goal of giving you ideas, resources, and solutions. And my co-host is Jennifer Ritchie. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I look forward to this every month.
Yes.
It's one of my favorite ways to spend 30 minutes.
All
So today we
right.
have two questions. Let's start with the first one, which is long. It's
Yeah.
long. Here we go. I am under a tremendous amount of family stress. Single adult child so gravely ill that I have to travel an hour several times a week to his house to keep an eye on him and make sure he's fed. A daughter who has a severe developmental disability and a going bankrupt group home provider. Wonderful parents and a beloved mother-in-law who are all in their 80s, and almost every week, my husband and I are tag teaming hospital stays. Brother-in-law who died by suicide a couple of years ago, leaving 4 daughters from ages 8 to 18. Just so much stress. I had great therapy when my daughter was born 30 years ago. I have stellar relationships with my husband, all our parents, siblings, and both kids. There was a significant work to get there, but that was a long time ago, and all the gains have endured. But the problem is, my body is breaking down. I've always had narcolepsy, but in the past 6 months, I've also had a scary it's TIA, so bear with me as I say it word by word, transient ischemic attack, TIA, small stroke, and 3 bouts of colitis to the point I can't stand up. My doctor offered antidepressants, but agreed I'm not depressed. So she didn't think that was the right answer. I long ago learned meditation to help manage my chronic illness, which helped that, but doesn't help whenever I have to puzzle through one of these issues I can't control. So I have lots of friends who will listen when I need to vent. I make time for exercise regularly, and hubby and I are totally in this together. Do I add therapy, or would that just be another expensive commitment? I gotta be on the planet for an extended time for my daughter, who will need care the rest of her life, and her only sibling can't help. Okay, so what do you think?
That is just a mouthful right there. So I was kind of curious about this because really in this question, all she's asking is, does she need therapy or should she add it? But there's so much here. Because therapy is not going to help her body. It might help her mind, and I feel like her mind is, I mean, she's got an amazing attitude. For all that's going on. I want to applaud her. I have a couple questions, as I always do. One is like, what is the plan for when she is gone? Because she's got a lot of things happening. And what is the plan for her daughter? I used to work with adults with developmental disabilities, and often the parents were very much in denial that they would ever be gone and would not make plans. And then the children would end up like as a ward of the state, which is a horrible place to be. So I wonder if she's planned for that. It sounds like knowing what she's dealing with, she probably has, but it's not clear here. Um, I don't think therapy is the answer. But again, it couldn't hurt. Um, yeah, I don't know, Denise, what are your thoughts?
I was overwhelmed by this question,
Yeah.
and I love this question
Mhm.
because it speaks to how we care for ourselves during a caregiving experience,
Yeah.
and it still takes an incredible toll on us.
Mhm.
So she's doing all the things that what we read about in the media, who tells us what to do, should be
Mhm.
doing. Sounds like she exercises regularly. She has kept this social circle of
Yeah.
friends who support her. That's really important. She's established relationships with which help her. And what it sounded like to me is that maybe what she needed was some plans.
Mhm.
So, this idea of, okay, what's the plan for after your death?
Yeah.
And I also think, what are the plans around perhaps letting in a little bit of help, for instance, with the son? So, she is regularly going to ensure that her son is okay and has eaten. The word that I wrote down around this question is pressure.
Mm.
She talked about stress, and definitely she's feeling stress, but I wonder if it's more the
Yeah.
pressure,
Yeah.
the pressure to keep everyone alive,
Mhm.
including herself.
Herself. Yeah.
And this idea of the expectation of what's possible. When she talks about her son, it sounds like she goes to check to make sure he is still functioning, he is still alive. She just mentions it as, that you bring food. Let's see if I can just really truly say what it is that single adult child so gravely ill that I have to travel an hour several times a week to his house to keep an eye on him and make sure he's fed.
Mhm.
That's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And then the pressure. Oh, go ahead, Jennifer.
I was just gonna say, I wonder if that's something that she could make a plan to have someone else help with, because
Yes,
there are
yes,
services out there that would do that.
yes. What could be a service or a program or a volunteer that she could use that could check in. And then here's the piece about it, and that she is okay, that she's not the one doing it. I
Yeah.
think that's the hard part, and that's the pressure. I have to be the one who stays alive for my daughter. I have to be the one that goes to the house to keep my son alive. So the
Yeah.
pressure to keep everybody alive is significant. And to me, the pressure pulling down on her is why she's having the physical
Mhm.
symptoms. It's pressure.
Yeah, I mean, that stress can do so much to your body. And I was even thinking, about the child she has to go see. I mean, there are things, even if she didn't have a service, she could have cameras. Obviously there's privacy issues and things that she'd have to work through and get consent and all of that, but you know, just so that she could check in that way, to make sure there's not a fall or things like that, that even if she can't get an actual person to go, she's got a little bit of relief that she doesn't have to make that drive. And um yeah, that pressure is gonna kill her. I mean, it really is.
And right. And it's the pressure from worries and expectations.
Hmm.
Every worry needs a plan. And that's why I was thinking of planning,
Yep.
just as you were. So when you think about what's technology and how could I use that with my adult son, that's a plan. How can I manage with technology so that I can still check in when I'm not there? And then I
Hmm.
would also say there has to be, I'm going to say that differently. I wonder what the boundaries she could put around how often she checks.
Hmm.
Because the
Yeah.
ability to check means sometimes you check all the time.
Yeah.
What are the times during the day that she checks? And that's it.
Yeah.
So when I was thinking about, does she need a therapist? I wondered if the therapist could help her with the expectations she has of herself to keep everybody alive. And then I thought about what we do as caregiving consultants,
Yeah.
helping with plans. So, family emergency planning,
Yep.
daily recovery planning. How is she actually releasing what happened during the day so she can sleep a little better at night?
Mhm.
What's the plan for her around taking care of her daughter after her own death? Those planning tools could help with some of the worries. And then I think the therapist could help with the expectations she has of herself.
Mhm.
And if you think about it, the expectations are around her being perfect because being perfect is what keeps everybody alive.
Yeah. Well, in that last sentence, I have to be on the planet for an extended time for my daughter. And, you know, it's just, it's like anything could happen any day. And it doesn't have to be her. And it's not going to be her forever. So, yeah,
Yeah, it's the thoughts that she's holding in her head around her own expectations.
yeah,
And I appreciate that she's venting to her friends, and perhaps a therapist could help her be a little more honest about the thoughts, which are very difficult to articulate. Very
yeah.
difficult. Very difficult.
And the friends are great to have, but they may not be able to relate, and they may want to try and fix it. And and that's not always what we need when we have that. And so a therapist or caregiving consultant would be probably a better person to talk to about it, because they can relate. And maybe not the exact scenario, but certainly a caregiving experience.
Yeah, I just loved the question because it is such a snapshot into what the experience is really like in terms of the pressure we feel to keep everyone alive.
And really probably more common than we know.
Yes, I think we all feel that pressure during our caregiving experience.
Mm.
It's very difficult, I think, to understand how to be imperfect during a caregiving experience and be okay with that
Yeah.
and not attach our imperfection to a carrie's death.
Mm,
Because
yeah.
I also think we have this idea that we must be able to read the future, which means that we can step in to prevent. When she's going to see her son, she is expecting to prevent something.
Mhm.
Because I show up, I can prevent.
Yeah.
And it's hard to show up to prevent, even when we live together, even when we live together. And I'm not sure when we were created by whatever you believe created us, I don't believe she had it in mind that we can actually always be there to prevent and read the future.
This is making me think of when I was living with my grandfather, and he was pretty independent, but we were living there for a reason. He had fallen and things. And this was right after my dad died. We went to dinner. It was right around Christmas. It was the first time that we had been out in the world. And I get a call from my grandpa, and he has fallen. And he, he, had done things that he shouldn't have done. We had put things in place, and he didn't do them. There were times when he was supposed to carry a phone and he didn't, and like all of this. And I'm like, we put all these plans in place and things still happen. And at that moment, I could have felt incredibly guilty for leaving him. But I was like, we did all we could. This was his decision. He is fully lucid, and can make decisions, and he's fine, thank goodness. But you can't prevent everything.
Right. And I've never met a family caregiver who has prevented the ultimate death.
Yeah.
Here's what is and can become the trap within our caregiving experience. We have intervened to stop something terrible from happening. We
Yes.
have had an intuition that something was not right and acted and saved our carrie. We do, we have. And that's why we believe we must. We
Mhm.
must continue to do that.
If I'm not there, it'll happen again.
It'll happen again. If I
Yeah.
don't check in all the time, it'll happen again. If I'm not the one who checks in, if I'm not the one who always stays alive, it'll all fall apart.
Yeah. I think the other thought that she's probably having is no one can do it as well as I can.
Which is true. Absolutely true.
Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. And others can still step in and do something that's helpful.
They can do it and they can be detached, which I think is probably better. I mean, you're clearly it's her children. She's going to be attached to that, but they can go in, do the job they need to do and not lose sleep over it.
Right.
So,
In the 6 stages concept, the fifth stage is the transitioning caregiver. And the transition that's really difficult for us is to transition from doing to being.
mhm.
And you can see how important it is for us to continue to do, because we do believe it's our role to prevent anything bad from happening.
Yeah,
And unfortunately, it still happens.
yeah.
So thinking through within her week, what are the moments when she could transition from doing to being?
Yeah.
And the other piece of this too is she is a very active person.
Mhm.
I wonder when she has moments when she sits and relaxes.
Yeah. And she probably doesn't, because when she sits and relaxes, she starts thinking.
Yes.
Like when
Right.
you're
Yes.
you
Yes.
know those people who are always
Yes.
going, because when they sit and chill out, they either completely fall asleep or they have to be alone with their thoughts, and their thoughts are not things they want to think. So
Right. It's not
just keep
relaxing.
doing. Yeah.
Yes. Right. I just have to keep doing.
Mhm.
I wonder if for her act of being would be to sit and write letters to her son, letters to her daughter. And perhaps she keeps them in separate boxes. And maybe when she goes to visit her son, the next time she brings a letter to him to let him know how much she loves him and cares for him. It's this idea then she doesn't have unspoken words.
Mm. That's lovely. I love that idea.
Yeah, so she is being, except in the being, she's also taking care of this idea that I haven't done enough.
Yeah.
And enough for her might feel elusive, which is why a therapist could help. And perhaps the other part of receiving enough is to actually write love letters. Maybe she sits and writes love letters to everybody,
Mhm.
including herself.
Yeah. I love that.
Okay, how do we feel about what we suggested for our first letter writer?
I think I think we covered it pretty well. I mean, we addressed the therapy issue, but also all the other things that she wasn't asking for help about that she probably could use help with.
And we hope that it's helpful. We hope our insights are
Yeah.
helpful. Okay, so here's the second question. A family member is 90 and lives by herself at home. She has around-the-clock caregivers paid for by her investment accounts. Her teacher pension pays for all everyday expenses. She is high maintenance and unwilling to accept she will one day run out of money for caregivers. What would you suggest?
This is another tough one, I think. Um, I'm curious about high maintenance and what that means because it's kind of a judgment. And, you know, I would love to see what that really is because maybe it's not a negative thing, it's just who she is. My first thought about this one is let's do the math. Like, let's figure out at the current level that she's spending all this money, if nothing changed, how long would the money last? Now, she's 90. It's not like she's, 70. So we're looking at, 10 years at the most, maybe. Um, I would love to see where the math takes us and then presenting that to her. I mean, you can't, she could still deny it, but if she's got it in front of her, like, okay, I've got 5 years left to, and then what? And get her involved. Yeah, I don't
Yeah, I
know.
think it's a well-informed choice that you want her to make.
Yeah.
And part of that well-informed choice is doing the math. And I also think it's bringing in a financial planner that says, we've done the math and here's what it looks like. We want to make sure that this choice is the choice that's right for you. Here's what the choice you're making and the math looks like. We could make
Mm-hmm.
a different choice if you wanted, and we can check in on this choice every 6 months, every year.
Yeah.
And if you can't make this choice any longer, who would you like to make a choice for you on your behalf? And what choice is that? And then let's get you connected to an elder law attorney to make sure those choices are documented and you have the legal documents in place to appoint someone to make those decisions on your behalf.
As
I
you're
think,
talking about that, I'm thinking like, oh, this could work really well having a third person come in because it's
yes,
not, there's
yes,
no
right.
baggage.
Yes.
It could also work against her. Like, I'm not going to listen to this stranger, I'm thinking of my grandpa in my head. That's what he would say. Um, so it could go both ways, but for sure, having a professional look at it would be great.
And I think what's interesting about this is we want people to do what we want them to do. And
Yeah.
I have never been successful at that, never. I wish if someone knows how to make people do what you want them to do, please let me know. I think what is important to know is that you just want to make sure it's an informed decision. It's not a
Because
choice
people are
made.
allowed to be high maintenance and make
Yes,
decisions
yes,
we don't
right.
agree with.
Yes, it's her money. It's
Mhm.
her money. It's her money.
The hard
And
part is when the results fall on us.
yes, exactly. That's exactly it. So she runs out of money, and then you're like, okay, well, we can't find anywhere for her to move.
Yeah.
And we're on a waiting list for a program through Medicaid. It's
Mhm.
just important to have the conversation, just to think through. And then if the family member, the caree, still says, I don't care, I'm staying here and I'm spending all my money, then it's helpful for the family caregiver to know that, because then there could be a different conversation separately with the financial attorney and an elder law attorney. This is what my family member is doing. This is the choice.
Mhm.
I, it's what it is. What do I need to know if and when the money runs out? So it's not such a hardship on me.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
I had kind of a crazy day yesterday. I'm kind of embarrassed to tell this story, but what the heck? I'll tell the story. Okay, so I went to get gas, but I had gone to get gas the day before and I just didn't pay attention, so I didn't put enough gas in my car. So I had this thought when I went to get gas the next day, and it was because I was driving home from Central Illinois. So I was getting ready to hit the road for a 2.5 hour drive. So I was standing at the gas tank, pumping my gas, looking at how much gas I was putting in. I thought, wow, that's a lot of gas I'm putting in. And then I looked, and yes, the gas was flowing out of my gas tank. I had over gassed my car. Yes, I did that. Out
Wow.
of worry that I didn't put enough gas in, I put too much gas in. Then it was like, holy crap, I'm going to blow up. So I thought, well, what do I do about this so I don't blow up? So
Uh,
I have no idea if this is the right thing to do. So please don't take this as a suggestion of what to do if you over gas your car. But this is what I did. So I took the windshield wiper and the fluid that is always there at the gas station. I pulled it out and I wiped down the side of my car. I wiped down the tires. And then I waited and I thought, well, I have to start my car. And obviously I didn't die. So that's the good news, right?
yeah.
Because I wouldn't be telling you this story. So I started my car. I pulled over. I thought about it and I thought, okay, you didn't blow up. The gas station didn't blow up. It's okay to keep going. And then I went a little bit longer and then I was like, you know what? I'm going to pour more water on the side of my car. And then I went on my way. And then I thought, I'm going to stop at a rest stop and pour more water on the side of my car just to make sure there's no gas. And then I was like, but what if someone pulls into that spot, doesn't realize there's gas on the ground and blows up? What if I blow up someone? So I thought, well,
Mm,
I'm going to call the gas station. So when I stopped at the rest stop, I called the gas station and said, I was just there. I'm so sorry I overgassed my car. I just want to make sure you're aware there might be a gas spill. And they're like, oh, okay, we'll go out and check. And then I went on my way, but it was the way I could take care of a worry. This is a
yeah.
long way of saying we can get stuck in our worries without taking action. And this particular letter writer, just like our letter writer before us, might have some worries about what's going to happen when the money runs out. What's the impact on me? And rather than, what's the impact on me? I wonder if there's going to be an impact. Make an appointment with a financial planner, an elder law attorney, explain the situation and say, what do I need to know so I
Yeah.
don't blow up the gas station, so I don't blow up my car, so I don't blow up?
I love that.
Have you ever
Yes.
overgassed your car?
I haven't, and I'm surprised that it let you.
It didn't click. It
Hmm.
didn't click. It didn't click. Okay, I have had another bad situation at a gas station. Now, this was 40 years ago, and I went to get gas on my lunch break from my job, and I clicked the handle in so it automatically fueled the gas, but the clicker got stuck, so it overgassed. But it
Oh,
overgassed, and the gas ended up on my skirt.
oh
So
God.
I had to go back to work. People would come into my cube and say, why does it smell like a gas station in here? It's because I had gas on my skirt. Oh
Oh,
my God. So that has stuck with me, which is why I manually add gas. I don't trust the clicker, but now I don't trust that one click will say you have enough gas in your tank. So
yeah.
now I'll have to have another strategy when I pull in to get gas.
I'll just watch the numbers, I guess.
Yes, I'll just decide this is my budget. I'm just going to put this amount in. And if it's not full, it's okay. It's okay.
Mhm.
Oh,
I love it.
yeah, that was an embarrassing. Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you how much I worried about being on the news that night that there's a security camera of a woman in a bright pink raincoat that overgassed her car and caused this terrible accident at the gas station.
I am
But
sure you're not the first person who has done that.
okay, but then what I thought is you probably are driving among so many other people that have done that. How do we not all just spontaneously explode? And I
Mhm.
did mean to do a little research around does gas evaporate? But I haven't done that yet because I was giving myself a break from the worries about this. And I'm pulling it out during this conversation because it still obviously weighs
Oh,
really heavy on me.
still in
And
there.
I think I need a therapist. I think that's the end of the story. I need a therapist.
Oh, that's funny.
Okay. So I think we've come up with it. Do we feel like we answered question number 2 with enough insights to
I
be
think so.
helpful? Yeah. Bring in help to make sure it's an informed choice. And as you offer an informed choice to the carrie, it is, this is your choice. This is your money. And I want to make sure that we are following your choice. So I think let's just make sure it's the best choice for you. So I'd love for us just to connect with a financial planner, do the math. You take a look at the numbers and decide this is still the right choice for you.
Yeah.
It's not trying to convince the carrie to make a different choice. It's just assuring,
I know the
really
facts.
having a conversation. Yeah, assuring, having a conversation with the carrie that you just feel like, okay, I did everything. We did the numbers, we had a professional discuss. This is what they're going to do.
Mm. Yeah.
Okay, those were 2 good questions. So
All
just
right.
as a reminder, if you have questions for us, feel free to write us, and you can write us at questions@caringourway.com. And if you'd like to join us live, we connect on the first Friday at noon Eastern Time, and you can register to join us at caringourway.com. Jennifer, who's one of our certified caregiving consultants, also has a resource for you. So Jennifer, if someone would like to be in touch with you, perhaps schedule a complimentary session, how do they
Yes.
reach you?
Um, the easiest way is becomingbrave.as.me.
Okay. And I include the link to Jennifer's website in our show notes. And be sure to subscribe to our channel so you receive a notification when we add new content. We add content regularly, and we always like to connect with you. So feel free to share comments about what we've talked about. Okay, thanks everybody. Thanks for being here. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining in.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just curious because I'm